بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن أحسن الكلام كلام الله وخير الهدى هدى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. So today is lesson 13 in the section on Al-Qadr and Al-Shara', and this is lesson number 48 overall in our series on the book Taqreeb Tadmuriyyah. So just to recap where we are, broadly speaking, we in the previous lessons we spoke about Al-Qadr on the one hand, which is Allah's prior knowledge of all things and His creation of all things, and Him creating all of the entities, the beings, their properties, their qualities, their attributes, and within that there are the ways and the means, the causes and their effects, which is how Allah's creation, how it functions, and how there is no contradiction between affirming all of this, that Allah is the knower, the creator, the one who wills everything, nothing is outside of His knowledge or His will or His creation, and everything within creation, it is by way of the asbab, the ways and means. There's no contradiction between believing and affirming that and between affirming and acting upon His legislation, His shara', and whatever He legislated through the prophets and the messengers. So we spent some time looking at people who deviated on this issue, and there were various different statements and sayings. So we looked at all of that. And then we spoke about, when we look at the shara', the legislation, basically it is Islam. It means Islam. And Islam is two types. The Islam of the previous prophets and messengers, which is the general Islam, to believe in Allah and to obey Allah by way of whatever legislation is current at the time. Right, so in the time of Nuh alayhi salam, it would be in that legislation. In the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam, would be in that legislation. In the time of Musa alayhi salam, and so on and so forth. However, the specific meaning of Islam is the Islam that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam he came with, and this Islam abrogates all prior religions, all prior books, all prior legislations. And so we established, so we looked at Ash-Shara'. What does it mean, Ash-Shara'? The legislation. It means Islam in general. But then there is the specific Islam, which is the Islam of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now this Islam, as we said, its foundation is to submit to Allah inwardly and outwardly, and to obey Him, to fulfill His commands and keep away from His prohibitions. And the foundation of this Islam, of this last and final messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is, of course, it is Tawheed. It is Tawheed. It is to single out Allah in worship. So in order for us to have a clear understanding of what is this legislation, we have to understand Tawheed. And to understand Tawheed, then Tawheed has three aspects. There are three elements to this Tawheed. Right? So in the previous lesson, we looked at Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, which is affirming that there is only one Creator, one Lord, who is the Creator, the Malik, the Khaliq, and the owner, the Malik, and the one who regulates and controls all affairs, who is the Mudabbir. So we established some proofs from the Quran for that, and we established that throughout history there has never ever been anyone, any person, any party, any faction who has ever believed that there is more than one creator who are equals, right, in their attributes, in their action. This has never ever been the case. And even some beliefs, for example, even Hindus who we know they are polytheists, nevertheless, within their polytheism, they still believe in one supreme creator, even though they believe in a hierarchy of different gods in between them and between the supreme creator. Right? So even though they don't really believe in more than one Lord, more than one Rabb, even the Persian, the Magian fire worshippers, the Majus, even though they believe in a God of good and God of evil, a God of light, a God of darkness, those gods are not really equal, right? To them, still the God of light and the God of good is more powerful and supreme and comes first. Even those who outwardly appear to reject a creator like Fir'aun, this was not a rejection based upon inward conviction, right? It was pure arrogance displayed, whereas inwardly they were convinced by the signs and evidences that Musa alayhi salam that he brought, right? So even that is not really, disbelief in a creator. And the modern day atheists that we spoke of briefly, even they, the reality of their position is that they are to be considered a type of mushrik, like a polytheist, because all they are doing really is, whereas to us we can see clearly in the creation clear evidences and signs of intentionality. There is intentionality in creation, meaning clearly we can see from all of the ways and means, causes and their effects, how all these things have been intertwined to enable life and provision and sustenance and so on and so forth. This is clearly, we can see that there is intentionality. Or we can say choice with intent. Or we can say knowledge, will, power, wisdom, right? So these attributes are clearly indicative of a creator or a maker. So from here, all the atheists are doing is, instead of ascribing this intentionality or these attributes to the maker and the creator, which is what you would do through intuition, through sound reason, instead they put these attributes and they put it back into nature and they credit nature, right? So really, matter, nature is really, it's the creator, right? It is all-knowing, it is all-powerful, it is all-wise, right? They put these attributes back into the creation. So in reality, they are mushriks in that sense, but they do this out of arrogance in order not to worship Allah. Right? So their shirk is shirk in rububiyyah in essence. Right? Whereas the shirk of the mushrikeen, it is shirk in uluhiyyah. They have other gods besides Allah, trees, stones, whatever. So really there is no one except that he affirms and believes in something which is eternal, all-knowing, all-powerful. This has never been disputed because it's part and parcel of the fitrah and established by sound reason. So this is what we established in the previous lesson. And we said that this belief in there being one supreme Lord Creator, therefore, if it's never been disputed, this cannot be the reason why the prophets and messengers were sent. And this cannot be the tawheed which enters a person into Islam. It cannot be, because this was never under dispute. And we established even from many verses of the Quran that even the pagans of Mecca did not dispute this either. So if that's the case, then we now move to the next element of Tawheed, the next aspect of Tawheed, which really now is the crux or the essence of Islam, and therefore the essence of the legislation, the shara, the legislation. So this section, this chapter here is quite an important chapter, quite an important section. There are many beneficial things here in this chapter. So the Shaykh, rahimahullah, starts this section, fasl, وَأَمَّا تَوْحِيدُ الْأُلُوهِيَّةِ فهو إفراد الله تعالى بالعبادة. As for Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, the tawheed of worship or devotion, then it is ifradullahi ta'ala bil ibadah. It is to single out Allah with worship. To single out Allah with worship. Right? This is a definition of Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. In fact, this is the definition of Tawheed as a whole. Ifradullahi bil ibadah. To single out Allah with worship. To make Him unique in directing all the forms and types of worship to Allah. And then the Shaykh goes on to clarify, بِأَنْ يُعْبَدْ وَحْدَهُ وَلَا يُعْبَدَ غَيْرُهُ. This means that He alone is worshipped and nothing besides Him is worshipped. He alone is worshipped and nothing besides Him is worshipped. Meaning anything, min malakin, or it says here malikin, min malakin, whether an angel, or rasulin, or a messenger, or nabiyyin, a prophet, or waliyin, or any righteous person, or shajarin, a tree, or hajarin, or a stone, or shamsin, the sun, or qamarin, the moon, or غير ذلك كائنا من كان, or anything other than that, whatever that might be, or whoever that might be. Right, so this here now captures the essence of Tawheed. To worship only Allah and to shun the worship of all other things besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, here, this before we move on, from this we should clearly understand what is the meaning of ilah. Ilah, right? We have to be very clear about this. The meaning of ilah, from what you've clearly heard, is anything which is adored, which is worshipped, which is sought out for the fulfillment of needs, right? To which the sentiments, the emotions, the feelings are directed, and which is adored and worshipped, and which is sought for the fulfillment of needs. This is the meaning of ilah in the Arabic language. From previous lessons, as you might recall, and from some of the previous books that we've studied, if you recall, we mentioned that some of the Muslims, or some of the Muslim sects, they made a mistake when they wrongly defined the meaning of the word ilah, which in English is God or deity, right? They said that the meaning of ilah is anything which has the power and the ability to create, right? Al-Qadiru ala al-ikhtira'. Anything which is able to create something or to bring about something. They said that this is the meaning of ilah. And on that basis, upon this incorrect definition, if this is how you define ilah, it means that Tawheed, the meaning of Tawheed to you, is that there is no creator and maker and anything that has the power to create except Allah. And this clashes with the Quran, as you can clearly see from what we discussed in the previous lesson. Right? This is an incorrect definition of the word ilah. This is not the meaning of ilah. Right? Because as we've already established, no one in the whole history of mankind has ever disputed and debated and denied that there is a supreme creator who is the creator, the maker. No one has ever denied this. And this is not the definition of the word ilah. Right? And if you make that to be the definition of ilah, it means that you are really you are removing the essence of Tawheed from your understanding of Tawheed, because this is not the Tawheed of the messengers, right? And therefore you will become prone to falling easily and justifying easily shirk, or actions of shirk. And this is why these groups or these sects who made that mistake in defining the word ilah in this way, many centuries afterwards, they are the ones who actually fell into affairs which comprise shirk, right? From among the Ash'aris, from among the Maturidis, they fell into, they found it easy to justify calling upon the dead or seeking them for intercession and invoking them for aid and assistance and relief and rescue and so on and so forth, because of this mistake in defining what is ilah, right? And so therefore this also leads to a mistake in understanding what is the kalima la ilaha illallah. When we say la ilaha illallah, if we use that incorrect definition, la ilaha illallah, it means there is no creator or maker besides Allah. But this is not the meaning of la ilaha illallah, as we've already established, right? However, this understanding is spread amongst many of the Muslims, especially those who are affected by this ilmul kalam, by the Ash'aris, Maturidis, and amongst the Sufiya. And that's why you see amongst many of the Muslims across the world, in the Far East, in North Africa, in other places, where this creed, where this incorrect creed of the Ash'aris and other than them, wherever it went, in those places you see the emergence of people, making tawassul and seeking shafa'ah, intercession, intermediaries, by way of the graves, by way of the dead people, by way of tombs, mausoleums, right? And it all stems and comes back down to an incorrect understanding or definition of the word ilah, therefore misunderstanding the kalima la ilaha illallah, and this leads to great harm. So as we said, the word ilah means something which is ma'bud, ma'luh, something which is adored, something which is worshipped. In fact, in some of the definitions, you find that some of the scholars of the language, they give an example, and they say that the meaning of this is, if you imagine a child that is born, which naturally seeks out and has an affinity for its mother, right? And we all know this from experience, because we know and experience this, right? The child is naturally, it looks towards its mother, even when it's just like 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, whatever. Even if the mother was to leave the room, it starts crying because it feels and perceives that the mother is not in the area. So the child naturally has an affinity, has an attachment, and knows that it relies for its needs, meaning to be fed, right, upon its mother. And that feeling is something natural, right? So that relationship there helps us to understand what is the actual meaning of the word ilah. It is the one whom you adore, whom you worship, whom you are in need of to meet your needs, to meet your basic needs, and whom you seek, whom you pursue for the fulfillment of those needs. This is what is an ilah. So once that is clear, now once we've cleared all that up, then next the Shaykh goes on to bring some evidences for this tawheed, right? That this is the tawheed that is commanded in the Quran, that we worship only Allah. That we worship only Allah. And so here are some of the evidences, just like with Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. We mentioned what it means, that Allah is unique in khalq, creating, mulk, owning, and tadbir, regulation. Then we looked at evidences, if you remember. Right? We mentioned some evidences, and there was one actual specific evidence, just as a side point now, there was an evidence where we said that there are 4 levels which Allah negates from others besides him, that they own anything, that they share in the ownership, that they aid and support Allah in running His creation, or that they have the right to intercede with Allah. I mentioned some speech from Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah. I think some people, if you want that actual quotation from Ibn al-Qayyim, if you go to, you can find it as a translation of it. Just go to, if you go to my website and just search for the word for in the search, the word for, F-O-U-R, for, and it'll come up from Ibn al-Qayyim, right? Cutting off the roots of shirk, or search for root, R-O-T, or the word for, and that article from Ibn al-Qayyim, the actual quote, will come up, because that was a very important interpretation of that verse, which we should keep in mind. So coming back to the evidences then. So the evidences here for the word, for Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. He says, وَمِنْ أَدِلَّتِهِ قَوْلُهُ تَعَالَى, from the evidences of this Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah is the statement of Allah, وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا. Worship Allah alone and do not associate any partners with Him. Surah An-Nisa, chapter 4, verse 36, very clear. This is the Tawheed, that you make your ibadah for Allah alone. And his statement, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِنْ قَبْلِكَ مِنْ رَسُولٍ إِلَّا نُوحِي إِلَيْهِ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنَا فَاعْبُدُونَ. We did not send before you any messenger except that we revealed or inspired to him that there is no deity or God worthy of worship except I, so worship me alone. So worship me alone. So here, this is very, very clear, which explains the meaning of the word ilah. The word ilah, the meaning of the word kalima la ilaha illallah, and also similar to this, wa ilahukum ilahun wahid, la ilaha illahu ar-Rahmanur Rahim. Your ilah, meaning the one that you worship, which is the true deity, is a single deity. There is none worthy of worship except He, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. He is the most merciful and the one who is merciful to His believing servants. Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 163. And the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, شهد الله أنه لا إله إلا هو والملائكة وأولو العلم قائما بالقسط لا إله إلا هو العزيز الحكيم. Allah bears witness that there is none worthy of worship except He, as do the angels and the people possessing knowledge, established upon justice. There is none worthy of worship except He. He is the Almighty and the All-Wise. This is at the beginning of Surah Ali Imran, chapter 3, verse 18. Okay, so these are just some of many, many evidences to show the command in the Quran to make our worship only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, this is the actual point of dispute. This is what was rejected by the pagans, as the Shaykh says, وَهَذَا النَّوْء قَدْ أَنْكَرَهُ الْمُشْرِكُونَ الَّذِينَ بُعِثَ فِيهِمْ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. This is the type that was rejected by the polytheists to whom the Messenger of Allah was sent. And so Allah mentions the statements of the polytheists in the Quran when they showed their rejection. Let's listen to what they said, right? So when the Messenger came to them and said to them, make your worship only for Allah alone. He didn't say to them, believe only Allah creates, believe Allah only Allah provides, believe only Allah regulates. He didn't say that. That wasn't the argument. He said, make your worship for none other but Allah alone. So when they heard this and they heard that this was the message, what was their response? Allah Azza wa Jal mentions in the Quran, إنهم كانوا إذا قيل لهم لا إله إلا الله يستكبرون ويقولون أئنا لتاركو آلهتنا لِشَاعِرٍ مَجْنُونَ. So Allah says, indeed, when it was said to them, when it used to be said to them, La ilaha illallah, right? So when the word of Tawheed was said to them, that there is none worthy of worship except Allah, then they would become arrogant. They would be puffed up with pride and arrogance. And they would say, are we to abandon our gods? Are we going to leave and abandon our gods for some possessed poet? A poet who is, not possessed, a poet who is mad. A mad poet who is majnoon. So this is what they said. They rejected this Tawheed. And also, in another verse, in Surah Sad, the 38th chapter of the Quran, Allah also mentions their disbelief and their rejection. So He says, وَعَجِبُوا أَنْ جَاءَهُمْ مُنذِرٌ مِّنْهُمْ, that they became amazed that there should be a warner who has come to them from among themselves. Right? So the pagan Arabs are amazed that, amongst ourselves, meaning Muhammad ﷺ has come to us, warning them. And وَقَالَ الْكَافِرُونَ هَذَا سَاحِرٌ كَذَّابٌ. So what did they say? The disbelievers, they said, this is a lying magician. He's a lying magician. Why did they say lying magician? It is because, as for him being a magician, then it's because whenever they would hear the Quran in their own language, and because of its beauty and eloquence, they could feel themselves being affected by the Quran. So they thought this must be something magic. It's magic, because it would hit them, right? The meanings of the verses, so they said it's magic. And as for kadhab, it's because they disbelieved the messenger when he said that he is a prophet and a messenger. They said, you're not a prophet and a messenger, you were lying, right? So this is why they said sahir and kadhab. And then they said, أَجَعَلَ الْآلِهَةَ إِلَهًا وَاحِدًا. Has he made all of the gods to be just a single God? Meaning, is he telling us to abandon all of our gods, to stop worshipping them, and to worship only one God? And then they said, إِنَّ هَذَا لَشَيْءٌ عُجَابٌ. Indeed, this is something strange. This is something very strange. فانطلق الملأ منهم أن امشوا واصبروا على آلهتكم إن هذا لشيء يراد. So they basically said, the chiefs, right, the leaders, the chiefs, meaning the elites amongst them, they said to the people, just continue, just carry on, have patience in worshipping your gods, meaning just ignore this, just carry on. And indeed, this is looks like this is some type of plot. This is some type of plot. So they presented the call of the Prophet ﷺ in this case as being, as if there's some sort of conspiracy or plot by the messenger to somehow, to take these people or to misguide these people, or to, as the Sheikh says, that he wants to اتهموا النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه يريد أن يسيطر ويملك. That it's as if that the Prophet wants to come and he wants to just control you and take over you and to dominate you, right? And actually in these verses, and in fact there are many other verses in the Quran that really capture for us the reality of what is taking place in the world between those who call to kufr and those who call to iman, right? So what you have is that, putting all of this together, we mentioned at the beginning that there are things which are worshipped besides Allah: angels, prophets, messengers, the jinn, even the shaitan, trees, stones, the sun, the moon, right? All these things are worshipped besides Allah. Now this is false religion, right? And in false religion, whatever is false religion, what you find is that there are people who benefit from false religion, right? Financially and in terms of power and whatever it might be. I'll give you some examples. In fact, you'll find it in all religions. For example, you find amongst the Yahud, the Jews, for example, what they are upon, they believe that the rabbis, that they literally are a manifestation of God upon the earth, right? So they assume this authority, and with that authority, they command and they direct and they do all sorts of things, which really it brings them benefit in terms of the world, in terms of wealth, in terms of money, likewise in terms of just general authority and power, right? So that situation there is of benefit to them. Likewise amongst the Christians, you see how many people you see embezzling the average Christian, selling them salvation, selling them cheap salvation, all built upon lies, of course, right? And you have these wealthy evangelists that are making billions and billions and billions and flying in these big planes and whatever else. And likewise amongst the Hindus, you have a caste system, and the belief itself is oppressive, tyrannical, and it allows this injustice to happen. The point that we are making here is all polytheism, every type of shirk, anything which is false religion, in which other than Allah is worshipped, within that religion there are people who exploit other people on the basis of that false religion. And this applies also even to materialism and liberalism in the modern sense, where you see that there are certain evil people, and maybe they are allies with the devil, with Iblis. They worship Iblis, they worship the devil, and they believe in the devil. These are the Illuminists, these are these types of people. And what they do is they exploit the people, because they know within people there are base desires, right? We all have base desires. There's the love for women, there's the love for food, there is love for wealth, there is love for, right? And so what they do is they exploit these base desires in the people, and they create industries in which these base desires are exploited, right? So whether that be to do with lusts and desires, they make billions and billions upon illicit sexual relations or relationships, or there's gambling, for example, or there's alcohol, narcotics, intoxicants, for example, and everything which is corruption. And so they have industries, entire industries built upon to exploit the people, and thereby they enslave the people, right? They put the people in servitude. They enslave the people to their own desires, or by way of wealth, usury, interest, debt, things, so on and so forth, right? These are all forms of enslavement, right? So whether it is the priests and the rabbis enslaving the people through false religion, right, as we've seen with the Yahud, with the Nasara, with the Hindus, with whatever, or whether it is people being enslaved to the actual desires, the base desires, right? All of these people, when true religion, when the sound authentic religion, which is founded upon Tawheed, right, which is none has the right to be worshipped and obeyed except Allah alone, this now cuts at the root of all of this false religion. It cuts at the root of all of this false religion. So when a person hears this kalima la ilaha illallah, and they actually understand what is the implication, they automatically realize, hang on, this now, it just literally pulls, it pulls the rug from under everything that we have and that we stand upon, right? The people of disbelief know this. They know this clearly. So this is why, in response, they show enmity to the prophets and messengers, and they say different things. This is a liar. This is an insane person. He's mad. This is a person who is, he's just a poet telling you fables. Right? Or he's insane. Right? Or this person is a plot. He's trying to conspire to subjugate you. Right? Like they say today, like, for example, when we say to people that Islam calls to the abolition of usury of interest and of illicit sexual relations because it destroys the society, and from gambling because it is a destruction of wealth and a destruction of the society, and from intoxicants because it destroys the mind and destroys the economy. What do they say? No, don't listen to these people. These people want to subjugate you and take your freedoms away from you. Well, why are they scared? They're scared because they're going to lose billions. Billions in interest, billions through the sale of intoxicants, billions through gambling and the addiction that they promote through gambling. This is what's at stake here, right? So they clearly understand the meaning of what it means when people understand the kalima la ilaha illallah. And so therefore, they have enmity towards the prophets and messengers who call with this call. And this is captured very, very well in this passage, although there are other passages. But we see in this passage, as we see, وَقَالَ الْكَافِرُونَ هَذَا سَاحِرٌ كَذَّابٌ. Right? This is a liar, a magician, a poet, a madman. It's insane. These things are just, he's learnt these fairy tales from other people. Or he's involved in a plot or a conspiracy to subjugate, right? So they are the ones who are subjugating, but they then accuse other people of wanting to subjugate the people. Just like they say nowadays, they say today about the Muslims who give da'wah, or they want to subjugate you, they want to take away your freedoms, that's what they say. Whereas the reality is the actual other way around, right? We want to free you from enslavement by way of the institution of usury, and we want to free you from the destruction of alcohol, intoxicants. We want to free you from the destruction of family and society and morals by way of illicit sexual relations. We want to free you from the harm of gambling. We want to free. These are all things that destroy and eat away the fabric of society, but which make some people billionaires and even trillionaires, as we see in the modern era where money and capital becomes more and more concentrated in the hands of fewer and fewer people. So these are the people who it is in their vested interest to basically say to the people whom they have misled, do not listen to these don't listen to these people, these backward, ignorant, barbaric people who want to subjugate you and take away your freedoms. Enjoy like the freedoms that you have. But really, what do they mean? It means illicit sexual relations, gambling, drugs, addiction, whatever else. Take the payday loans, take all these other things, right? Because they want, and that's what they say. And that's why here, as you see, فَانْطَلَقَ الْمَلَأُ مِنْهُمْ, right? So the elites, the chiefs of the people of disbelief, they said, animshu, just carry on, just ignore these people, animshu, wasbiru, have patience, ala alihatikum, upon worshipping your gods, inna hadha la shay'un yurad. Right? This seems to be like a plot or a conspiracy. So that's why they say, keep worshipping these gods. And likewise, you have idols that these people worship, be in the form of singers and performers and artists who are literally like idols to these people. Worship these gods, have patience and continue. So it's important to capture, this verse and the meaning of this verse, and how this is always the situation and the scenario with every prophet and messenger, right? The prophets and messengers want to come and they want to liberate the people from the tyranny of shirk, right? When there is shirk, other than Allah is worshipped, then every type of injustice and corruption is built upon that shirk. And so the prophets and messengers want to eliminate all that corruption by cutting it from the roots, right? Which is shirk, right? They begin their call with this. And in turn, the elites or the chiefs of the people of disbelief, who have the most to lose, because what they have done by way of false religion, they have usurped this false authority over the people, and they benefit or they enrich themselves in terms of materially as well, in the worldly sense. So they are the ones who have so much to lose, because the people would be liberated from that enslavement, right? And they would be saved from every type of corruption. So they are the ones who then specify enmity for the prophets and messengers, or for anyone who calls with the call of the prophets and messengers. And so then they engage in all types of propaganda, of lies, of deception, and then they want to brainwash the people who are under their, who they've mesmerized and deceived with false religion, false beliefs, false ideas, to make them hate and to oppose the messengers, right? And that's why when these people in the hereafter, when they enter into the hellfire, they will blame each other, and they will say, you are the ones who misled us. And they will say, well, nothing to do with us. We just called and you responded. Why? And so that party will say, double the punishment upon them. And they will say, no. Right? This is the disputation of the people of the hellfire, which is a reality that it will take place. But this is important to understand and capture, the meaning of this verse and how it is timeless, because this is describing the actual state of affairs in all times, in all places, after the time of Nuh alayhi salam, between the reality between the prophets and messengers and the nations to whom they were sent. So anyhow, what is the point in this so far? The point is that these verses indicate the response of the people of disbelief, the people of shirk, to the call of the prophets and messengers. This is how they respond, because they clearly understood the implications of this message. So then the Shaykh goes on to say, he says, وَمِنْ أَجْلِ إِنْكَارِهِمْ إِيَّاهُ, because of this rejection, their rejection of the Prophet ﷺ, قَاتَلَهُمُ النَّبِيُّ ﷺ وَاسْتَبَاحَ دِمَاءَهُمْ وَأَمْوَالَهُمْ وَسَبَى نِسَاءَهُمْ وَذُرِّيَّاتِهِمْ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى وَأَمْرِهِ. So he says, because they then rejected the Prophet ﷺ, they rejected his call, and obviously they showed enmity towards him, they fought him, they launched wars against him, right? They came to him in Medina, and they launched battles, and they, did all these intrigues. Then the Messenger of Allah, he fought back against them. He fought back against them, and their blood, their wealth, and the capturing of their properties and possessions. Then he did that, right? Because this was from justice to do that, and he was allowed to do that because he had been wronged, and because, right? And what is the point in this? The point is, as the Shaykh says, وَلَمْ يَكُنْ إقرارهم بتوحيد الربوبية مخرجا لهم عن الشرك ولا عاصما لدمائهم وأموالهم. Right? The fact that the Messenger ﷺ did this is a proof to show that the fact that they actually believed that there is only one creator, one provider, one sustainer, one regulator, they actually believed this. That did not prevent the Messenger of Allah ﷺ from doing what he did, right? Which is to fight back against them for their aggression and their violence, right? Because the mere affirmation that there is one Lord, one Creator, does not enter a person into Islam, right? And so when they rejected La ilaha illallah, what it means, to abandon all their false gods and to worship only Allah, right? When they abandoned that and then they fought against the messenger, and the messenger fought back, this in itself is a clear proof that simply to believe there's only one Lord, one Creator, one Provider, that is not Islam. And that does not enter you into Islam, right? Until you act upon the necessities of that belief, which is to worship only Allah and to abandon the worship of all other false deities. So, okay, so this is where we've got to. So, the next part now. So now we're moving to a new section, or a new new section, which is once we've now clearly understood. So at this point we now clearly understand that when we speak of ash-shara', the legislation of Allah, which we are showing does not contradict the qadr of Allah, right? The legislation of Allah is founded upon is Islam, right? The general universal Islam of every prophet and messenger, but in a more specific sense, the Islam that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came with. The foundation of that Islam is Tawheed. And Tawheed is not Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, because nobody has ever disputed this, that there's one creator, one maker. Rather, it is Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. We now have a clear understanding of what that means, right? It is to make worship only for Allah alone and for none other besides Him. This was the call of the messengers, as we've clearly seen, and we've clearly explained the actual scenario that existed between the prophets and messengers and the people to whom they were sent, right? The debate, the reason for the opposition, that's now become very, very clear to us. And the fact that the polytheists affirmed Allah is the creator, maker, provider, did not enter them into Islam. Okay, so now we clearly understand the meaning of La ilaha illallah, of what is Tawheed. It is Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. So the next question now, so we know that with evidences, with verses. The next question is, okay, how now then does a Muslim, how does he actualize, right? How does he put this Tawheed, how does he actually implement and act upon it and apply it in his life? What are the basic foundations? What is the way that we do this? And this is what the Shaykh is going to discuss next in the next session or the section. So I think what we'll do to keep it, so we have a clean break and we start fresh. I think we'll end the lesson here at this point. And inshallah, we'll start this fresh in the next lesson, insha'Allah ta'ala. So we'll conclude that lesson there for today, inshallah. We'll continue the next section in the next lesson, insha'Allah ta'ala. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.